In San Francisco, the city's so nice you'll step in poop twice. There's an area where homeless people were urinating and defecating, and it was starting to annoy the people breaking into cars. So the city tried to build a public toilet last year, but then gave up when the cost hit $1.7 million. Not $1.7 million for a public toilet system, $1.7 million for one toilet. And this wasn't some magic toilet that catches your phone when you drop. It's no wonder that in 2021, San Francisco issued only 2,000 permits for new homes. Sure, there are people living in the streets, but that's because we want to make sure the apartments they don't live in are perfect. I don't fear AI anymore because it couldn't possibly be any more robotic than the humans who run things now.
San Francisco, the city with the postcard views, the iconic bridge, the sourdough, tech money, and apparently a reputation so messy the punchline writes itself. The city's so nice you'll step in twice. Yeah, that one. And before we even get into the politics, the policies, the debates, and the yelling, if you like this kind of no-filter breakdown where we call things what they are, do me a favor. Hit like, smash subscribe, and drop a comment early so I know you're here. Alright, now let's talk about why San Francisco has become the go-to example for how did this happen. Because what Bill Maher did in this bit, and whether you love him, hate him, or only watch him when your algorithm gets spicy, is he basically grabbed San Francisco by the collar and said, explain yourself. Not in a gentle, let's workshop solutions way, more like the comedic version of shaking a vending machine until the chips fall out. His whole point is simple. This is one of the most beautiful, wealthy, and culturally iconic cities in America, and it's acting like it can't handle basic entry-level civilization things, like keeping stores open, or keeping car windows unsmashed, or building a toilet. And look, I know someone's already typing, crime happens everywhere. Yes, obviously. But the thing that makes this San Francisco conversation different is the vibe Maher is pointing at. Not just that bad stuff happens, but that it's happening with the confidence of someone who thinks they're allowed to do it. That's the word he keeps circling, audacity. Not, oops, I stole something. More like, yeah, I'm taking this and you're not going to do anything about it. That energy is what freaks people out, because once a city feels like it's running on shrugging and coping, the regular people start quietly checking out.
San Francisco in the last few years has seen 11 Walgreens and 6 CVS stores just give up and close because that town seems simply beyond law, which is heartbreaking because I, like so many people, love that city, and I don't think it's corny to admit, yes, I left my heart in San Francisco. Also, my wallet and iPhone.
Brings up the stories you've probably heard even if you've never set foot in the Bay Area. The walk into a store, grab stuff, walk out thing. The chains that start pulling out. And to be clear, he's not doing a spreadsheet presentation like, here's the quarterly report. He's doing the cultural gut check. When Walgreens and CVS locations start closing and people feel like the rules don't apply anymore, the city stops feeling like a city and starts feeling like a theme park with broken security cameras. And that hurts. Because San Francisco isn't some random place. It's San Francisco. People have memories there. People got engaged there. People moved there with big dreams and dumb optimism and a suitcase full of I'm gonna make it energy. Then he hits the car break-in problem, and this is where the whole thing gets darkly hilarious, because the solutions people have come up with are straight up dystopian comedy. You know it's bad when the life hack isn't park in a well-lit area. It's leave your windows down and your glove compartment open so the thief can see your
glass. Piles and piles of shattered glass everywhere from car windows being smashed. It's so routine to have this happen to any parked car that people purposefully leave the windows down and the glove compartment open so thieves can see there's nothing of value. Or they leave a note on the car politely assuring the thief that there's nothing worth stealing and please don't break the windows.
Imagine explaining that to someone from out of town. Welcome to San Francisco, here's your hotel key, here's a map, and here's a friendly tip. Pre-surrender your vehicle so criminals don't punish you for having doors. And Maher's argument is basically, how do you get to that point unless the system is broadcasting loudly that consequences are optional? He points to the idea that if theft under a certain dollar amount gets treated like a minor offense, people will do what people do, test the boundaries. Not because everyone is evil, but because incentives matter. If the rule is under this amount, it's basically a slap on the wrist. Guess what? You've just created a target, a ceiling, a criminal budgeting plan. Like, alright fellas, keep it at $999.99 and we're good. That's not even a moral debate at that point. It's basic human behavior and risk calculation.
What is so disturbing here is not just that there's more crime and mayhem, it's the audacity of it all. Like there's no lines anymore that can't be crossed. Like don't walk on a stage during a live show.
Before anyone jumps in with but poverty and but inequality and but systemic issues, yes, those are real. Those are huge. Those deserve serious attention. Maher isn't pretending complex problems have one simple cause. But what he is saying is, you cannot fix big, deep social issues by pretending rules don't matter in the meantime. You can't run a city on vibes. You can't tell working people, hey, we're tackling generational inequality, while they're stepping over broken glass on the way to their car that now looks like it lost a fight with a baseball bat. And that broken glass thing, Maher calls it San Francisco snow, which is an absolutely brutal nickname because it lands instantly. You don't even need to see it to picture it. You can hear it under your shoes. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Like the city's got permanent glitter on the ground, except it's not glitter, it's the aftermath of another smashed window. That's not just property crime, that's atmosphere. That's what people mean when they say a place feels unsafe, even if nothing happened to them personally. It's the constant evidence that something is off. Here's where it gets interesting, because Maher doesn't stop at crime bad. He goes after the leadership culture that he believes allowed the vibe to metastasize.
Bay Area citizens have been complaining in recent years about all the human feces in the streets, but now the streets are full of something else. They call it San Francisco snow. It's glass, piles and piles of shattered glass everywhere from car windows being smashed. It's so routine to have this happen to any parked car that people purposefully leave the windows down and the glove compartment open so thieves can see there's nothing of value. Or they leave a note on the car politely assuring the thief that there's nothing worth stealing and please don't break the windows.
This is where the comedy turns into something sharper. He basically suggests that some officials confuse compassion with neglect. Like they think enforcing standards is mean, so they don't enforce anything. And then you get a city where normal people feel abandoned and the worst actors feel empowered. That's the trade. That's the bargain. And if you're wondering why voters get cranky and start swinging hard in elections, it's because when daily life becomes a constant low-grade stress test, people don't want a lecture. They want results. Maher also takes a swing at the defund the police era, not from the angle of police are perfect, but from the angle of you don't get to demand safety while chaining the people whose job is safety. And to keep this grounded, nobody serious thinks policing can't be improved. Accountability matters, training matters, standards matter. Maher's point is that morale, staffing, and enforcement don't exist in a vacuum. If the message to law enforcement is, we don't trust you, we don't back you, and we'll throw you under the bus the second Twitter gets mad, then yeah, fewer people want that job, and the ones who stay might get cautious to the point of paralysis. And what fills a vacuum? Not good intentions, not community circles. A vacuum gets filled by whoever is willing to take advantage of it. That's the part people don't like saying out loud because it sounds harsh, but it's true in every system. If there's no enforcement, the bold take over, and then everyone else adapts. Businesses change policies, residents stop reporting things, tourists get warned, and suddenly you're living in a city where the survival strategy is don't look like a target. That is not how a functioning society is supposed to.
The police still need reform, yes, but we can't just allow them to be hunted and targeted for assassination, as has happened over 100 times in 2021. I know there are big issues behind crime, like income inequality and racism that need to be addressed, but let's not get so wrapped up in becoming great again or building back better that we forget not to become El Salvador.
Now we pivot, because Maher pivots. And honestly, pivot is where San Francisco becomes a symbol instead of just a location. He goes from security to sanitation, basically says, okay, crime is one thing, but you're also losing the ability to keep the city clean. And this is where the poop problem comes in, which has basically become a meme at this point. And memes don't happen because something is rare. Memes happen because something is recognizable. The reason that joke lands is because enough people have heard the stories that it doesn't sound impossible. That's the real reputational damage. When your city becomes a punchline, people accept without needing proof in the moment. And what does San Francisco do when faced with a public sanitation issue? According to Maher's bit, it tries to build a public toilet. Reasonable idea, right? A city with tourists, commuters, and a homelessness crisis probably needs more public restrooms. That sounds like the easiest, yes, obviously project on Earth. Not a moon landing, not a high-speed rail network, just a toilet. And then comes the number that makes everyone's soul leave their body. $1.7 million for one toilet. One. Not a system, not a fleet, not a golden throne with Wi-Fi and a built-in therapist. Just one public...
In San Francisco, the city's so nice you'll step in poop twice. There's an area where homeless people were urinating and defecating, and it was starting to annoy the people breaking into cars. So the city tried to build a public toilet last year, but then gave up when the cost hit $1.7 million. Not $1.7 million for a public toilet system. $1.7 million for one toilet. And this wasn't some magic toilet that catches your phone when you...
This is the moment Maher is really talking about bureaucracy more than bathrooms. Because even if you don't know the exact accounting, everyone understands the feeling of how did we get here? How do you take something simple and make it so expensive it becomes a national comedy segment? But wait, there's more. Because in the story, a private company basically says, fine, we'll build it for free. And the city still manages to slap on a mountain of fees and management layers until the free toilet is somehow almost $1 million anyway. That's the kind of thing that makes regular people feel like they're living inside a Kafka novel written by someone who collects permit applications as a hobby. Maher's joke is essentially, at that point, you're not a city, you're an airline. Everything is surcharges. Everything is fees may apply. You're paying $60 to select a seat in the back.
So then a private company took pity on San Francisco and offered to build them their toilet for free. But after, quote, project management, construction management, architecture and engineering fees, permits, civic design review, surveys, contract preparation, and cost estimation, the free toilet was still going to cost almost $1 million. You know, if you tack on fees like that, you're not a city, you're an airline.
And that's the deeper critique. It's not just that projects cost money. It's that the process seems designed to protect the process. Like the system exists to justify itself, not to solve problems. More reviews, more committees, more consultants, more public input sessions that produce more sessions. You know what that creates? A city that feels proud of being impossible. Like, welcome to San Francisco, where we can debate a toilet for 2 years and then cancel it because it's too expensive and somehow nobody gets fired. Maher leans into the public input line, again, as a joke, but it's a deadly accurate one. Because yes, public input matters, democracy matters, community voices matter. But if public input becomes a shield for, we never decide anything, then what you really have is paralysis dressed up as virtue. And people eventually stop feeling heard and start feeling trapped inside a system that can't move. Then he takes it to housing, and this is where the whole thing connects. Because you can't talk about homelessness, street conditions, and affordability without talking about building. And the critique here is basically, San Francisco has so many hurdles to development that it's become functionally allergic to new housing. And if you make it incredibly slow, expensive, and painful to build, guess what happens? Fewer homes get built, prices stay insane, people get squeezed, and the crisis gets worse. It's not magic, it's math. Maher mocks the permitting maze, the idea that it takes hundreds of days and a ridiculous number of approvals to build anything.
It feels like San Francisco is actually proud of being impossible. Asked about the toilet, a spokesman for the Department of Public Works said, "We are a city of public input." Okay, but I'm stepping in public output. Meanwhile, the median time to get approval to build a house there is 627 days. That's 217 days longer than it took to build the Empire State Building. You need 87 permits, 15 from the Planning Commission, 26 from the Public Utilities Commission and the Fire Department, 19 from building inspectors, 17 from the Public Works, 10 related to public spaces, and 1 from a guy in a t-shirt that says federal
The punchline is brutal. It can feel like the city can't build housing for people who need it, but it can absolutely build bureaucracy for bureaucracy. It's like they're speed running paperwork while real life collapses around them. And then he takes aim at leadership, specifically the way he frames Gavin Newsom and the city's leadership as polished, procedural, and robotic. His line about not fearing AI because the humans running things are already more robotic is funny, but it's also a jab at this very modern kind of governance where everything is processed and frameworks and stakeholder engagement and task forces, while the public is standing there like, cool, my car got broken into. Do you have a framework for that?
It's no wonder that in 2021, San Francisco issued only 2,000 permits for new homes. Sure, there are people living in the streets, but that's because we want to make sure the apartments they don't live in are perfect. I don't fear AI anymore because it couldn't possibly be any more robotic than the humans who run things.
That's the core frustration powering this whole rant. The gap between elite language and street-level reality. When leaders speak in slogans and systems, but citizens live in broken windows and closed stores, trust dies. And once trust dies, the public stops cooperating with the story you're telling them about progress. Maher wraps it with the Mount Rushmore analogy, and you don't even have to agree with every word to understand what he's trying to say. He's painting a picture of a society that has gotten so tangled in rules, delays, and performative virtue signaling that big projects feel impossible. And again, some regulations are good, safety is good, environmental review can be important, accessibility matters. But the joke is about balance. When everything becomes an obstacle and nothing gets built, you don't have a functional system, you have a self-protecting machine. So where does that leave us? Because it's easy to laugh at the toilet number and the San Francisco snow line and the absurdity of leaving your windows down like you're politely inviting criminals to browse. But behind the jokes is something kind of sad. A city people genuinely love is being talked about like a cautionary.
So let me finish with this. Not that there was ever any reason to build it in the first place, and not that there would be any reason to do it again. But just as an exercise in realizing how far we've regressed as the can-do people, I think we should all try to imagine how it will go down if we tried to sculpt Mount Rushmore out of a mountain today. First, we'd have to make the mountain handicap accessible, so we could hire handicapped people to work on the side of a mountain. Then there'd be a 10-year delay while we studied the effect of construction noise on the mating habits of woodchucks. Then another 10 years to obtain ethnically sourced dynamite and find a sculptor who doesn't only work from home.
Whether you think Maher is dead on or exaggerating for effect, the bigger question still hangs in the air. Why does it feel like some leaders can't or won't do the basics anymore? And if you're watching this thinking, okay, but what's the answer? The uncomfortable truth is, there isn't one magic lever. It's not just arrest everyone, or spend more money, or build more shelters, or defund this, or fund that. It's a mix. It's enforcement that actually enforces. It's compassion that doesn't turn into neglect. It's bureaucracy that gets trimmed so cities can build again. It's leadership that cares more about outcomes than optics. And maybe, just maybe, it's a public that stops accepting dysfunction as normal. Because here's the scariest part of normalization. Once you normalize chaos, you stop believing order is possible. You start living smaller. You stop going places. You stop opening businesses. You stop visiting. You stop investing. And then the decline becomes self-fulfilling. So I'll throw it to you, because I genuinely want to know what you think. Is San Francisco just the most visible example of a problem happening in a lot of big cities? Or is it a uniquely extreme case of good intentions plus bad execution? And if you've been there recently, does the reality match the reputation, or is the